Okay, so if you've been around the Digital Barbell family for a little while now, you'll remember back in March that we became a family of four, and we welcomed two new people to the team. And we're lucky enough to have Coach Haley on this episode. But before we get to interviewing her and learning about her story, she knows the tradition of having a sponsor for each podcast. And was actually, as part of the team, able to bring this week's sponsor. So Haley, who do you have for us this week?
Yeah, I'm bringing a big one. This week we are sponsored by IKEA. They had reached out to me. They had been following me for quite some time now and noticed I don't have a desk, and they just wanted to help me out. And so I think that's a pretty big deal. Shout out to them. And I'm really looking forward to that.
So, but it looks like from what I see now, you're still sitting on the floor. Where's the desk?
Still sitting on the floor. It hasn't come through yet. Hopefully they will also bring a man to install it for me, because nobody's got time for that.
That's a big one.
In the meantime, that's what we got.
I'm not sure where you go from having an international sponsor like IKEA. I mean, you pretty much.
We were sponsored by Apple one of those times, so that's pretty impressive.
I think twice they've been on board. Well, like I said, Haley is a new member to the Digital Barbell coaching team, and we're going to kind of talk about her story, let her tell her story, really kind of go into detail of everything she wants to share with us. When she first joined the team, she put up a post on her Instagram, which is Haley Digital Barbell on Instagram, kind of telling a few random facts about herself. One of which has really stuck. I know what you're going to say. The fact that she's afraid of chewing gum. Why don't you tell us what's up with that?
I don't think I want to talk about it because of that. Yeah.
Did you choke on chewing gum one time?
No, nothing traumatic happened to me as like a child. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I wish I did. Everything about it just makes me want to crawl in my skin. I just
wow.
That's got to be tough because I mean, I chew gum all the time. I think you're chewing some gum right now.
Minton,
so you have a Minton, but probably constantly.
Like when you get into middle school, kids were allowed to start chewing gum, and I was new to that region. And I wanted to make friends, so I didn't say anything. I played it cool, but it was a hard time for me. Hard time.
So you don't even like it if you see somebody chewing gum around you?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna keep my 6 feet always.
Wow.
You were social distancing from gum long before it was
cool. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, let's move past the gum and let's
do that.
Let's kind of go back in history a little bit and just kind of tell us a little bit about your upbringing, your family, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that really does play a part in kind of who I am today too. So, my mom had always brought us up playing sports since. Really, I don't know, you probably start sports at like 3. So you name it, soccer, lacrosse, track, archery, horseback riding, softball, everything I did, it was fall, I had a sport, winter, spring, summer. I mean, it was constant. So that was kind of that was just part of me. I'd always been active and played sports, and I am thankful for that. And I'll kind of talk about that later, because I think a lot of people struggle with, okay, well, after you're done playing organized sports, what do you do for fitness? So that was a struggle for me. But yes, I have 2 older brothers. I have 2 younger nephews, and I have nieces. And it's been, since I've moved back to Maryland, it's been awesome seeing them again, being around them. But yeah, so I'm from Maryland, for those who don't know. A lot of people, I realized, thought I'm from Texas. They just assumed that. No, I'm from Maryland, and it's weird that we've never even met, but we're gonna work on that this summer.
Yeah.
It's probably been interesting for you because so many of our clients are up in the Northeast that you guys have a lot of once they find out where you are, you have a lot in common with them of different experiences.
The Pennsylvania photographers, they're pretty close to me. We'll definitely, we've been talking about doing a meetup too. So that'd be pretty dang cool.
That would be cool.
I think that's a great idea. So out of all the sports that you played, was there one that kind of stood out as your favorite or one that you excelled at?
Yeah, I would say definitely lacrosse. I'd played in high school. I'm glad I chose not to play in college. All my friends who did sports in college were like, oh crap. Yeah, you totally get a different experience. And so I used to also coach girls lacrosse for a little bit, which is awesome. Very cool. Love to coach just in general. And maybe that's kind of what started to spur me just enjoying that and kind of realizing, hey, I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So is that a good place to kind of tie in with how you did transition from high school into pursuing kind of fitness as a job?
Yeah, for sure. So, after that, I was like, I don't, what do people do for
Yeah.
working out? Like, I just assumed people just run. Like, is that it? I didn't even know lifting was a thing. So it's like, well, I guess I should do something. So I joined my gym, and this is, I think, what everyone does, especially women. You join a gym to go on the elliptical for 30 minutes, an hour, and then you hide in the corner and do crunches for the next half hour. Like, that was for months. That was all I did. I didn't know any different. And so from there, I was like, I started to see people in the weight room. There's no women in there. So I was very intimidated, and I didn't even try for so long. But eventually, so I would watch videos before I went to the gym, mostly like bodybuilding stuff. So things on machines, but I'd watch them because I was so afraid of just, looking silly when I got in there. And then I met my good friend Donald, who worked there. He later told me many people would go up to him and say, "Oh my gosh, you need to help that poor girl. She's so confused. Like, please give her some guidance. She's gonna injure herself."
Goodness.
So that was unfortunate. So shout out to Donald for helping me, but not shout out to all the people who
Right.
wanted me behind my back. And then from there, so he actually got me then into CrossFit. So then I started kind of doing that, really enjoyed that, loved the mental aspect of it, just grinding through tough, nasty workouts. And then from there, so that was kind of like, I am going to put a post up of like some pictures and more of my story, but I would say I was, the traditional skinny fat, right? I mean, I didn't know anything about nutrition. I think at the time too, that's when the If It Fit Your Macros was very big. So, I would do these intense workouts like 2 times a day, and I'd go crush Chick-fil-A, have me a dozen donuts, whatever. That was the extent of that. And then from there, it kind of transitioned into, I started doing powerlifting. I was the only woman still in the gym. I was like, heck yeah, this is super cool. I loved being strong. Still no idea how to fuel my body. I'd be in there for like 2.5 hours in between sets. It's like a 5-minute rest period, eating a sandwich. Like that was that. And then I started just kind of taking all of those into one, which is why I love what we do, because you guys had kind of said it's the same thing. It's like bodybuilding, CrossFit, powerlifting, all that good stuff of it, put it together. And so so I started being a trainer from that point, using all my knowledge of what I knew, what I liked, what I didn't like, into that. But yeah, so I wasn't planning on this being my career. I was going to school to be a elementary teacher. And then I was like, oh, can't do that for the rest of my life. Rough.
Oh my goodness.
So
what was it about that was a turnoff? What were you worried about?
I was to put myself through college. I was a pre-K teacher. God love them. If you are a pre-K teacher, it takes a special person. I loved it, but I was like, there's just no way. I can't do this for the rest of my life. I took a break from school to try and figure out what I was going to do. I had friends who were trainers, and I was like, that's kind of a cool, hobby that you do. I never really considered it to be like a real job. So I got my cert, started training people, here and there. And then I was like, okay, this is like pretty dang cool. I really enjoy this. And so I just kind of kept learning more, going to seminars, building up my my client base. And then I was like, okay, actually, yeah, this could be a quote unquote real job. And it was, so that's kind of where I was at. And
thinking back to those times when you were uncomfortable in the gym and didn't really know what to do, talk more about that transition from, you had Donald who kind of guided you, but there's probably a million people listening to this. I mean, because we have millions of listeners who are still in that place. Like,
right.
Like, can you think back to something maybe you could have done differently to speed up that process or just get yourself comfortable if Donald never would have reached out to you? Like, can you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, so the gym I went to was a very old school gym. It was just machines lined up one by one, and I just thought that's all fitness was. Is like you looked at the picture, okay, let me like stretch my legs out, bring it back in. Like I didn't know that there was anything more to it. But I think maybe social media is what got me realizing that there is more to it, and it's not just me trying to learn more. And so, yeah, I would still kind of like watch videos and get an idea of what people were doing. And that's kind of when I started messing around with like the barbell. Still extremely nervous because like, I can't say it enough. I was literally the only woman anywhere near the weight room. And so, yeah, it's super nerve wracking, but I think my best advice and why I'm glad I did it is with anything else, it just comes with, you have to fail first before you can, progress, and no one just gets something right from the get-go.
Yeah, that's a great point. Was there a lot of women at the CrossFit gym that you joined?
Yeah, there was. I would say so.
Good.
But then I was a broke college student, and then I couldn't afford it anymore. So that I just went back to my old school gym. But yeah.
I remember looking through your social media feed, your Instagram feed, and I think you had posted some videos of different people that you were training at the time. Was there a certain kind of person that you really identified with when you were training people in person that you really like to help?
Yeah, I think it was just the people that I identified with, like when I was kind of starting my journey, who were super nervous. A lot of people would even tell me, they're like, well, I can't get a trainer until I've lost 10 pounds, then I'll be ready. That's wild. But I get it. I kind of get the mindset. So I think I loved just training women who really didn't know what it was like to feel strong, to be strong, to just in general feel empowered and realize like, heck yeah, I can do some hard things. So I loved that. But then of course I loved, I had a few clients who were like severely overweight. I mean, just our movements were, hey, let's sit down on a box and then stand back up again. And so being able to see the transition in their confidence as we went was probably my favorite part. We talk all the time about, while the scale is a very cool thing and it's exciting to see it go down, how cool is it to see your confidence go up and that you're adding more weight next time, or that, maybe you wouldn't have gone to your high school reunion, but this year you are because you feel so good about yourself. So that was probably the coolest thing. And what I still love the most now is seeing that transition of your mindset, just being stronger and, living life on your own terms, which is cool.
That's awesome. So as you were personal training in person, you mentioned about your starting track, or at one point you got into tracking your own macros and kind of learning more and more about nutrition. Like, what was kind of the process of you getting more interested in nutrition, both in helping other people and what was going on with your own experience with nutrition as you got more experienced?
Yeah, well, it's wild because when I was getting my certification for training, there's really no education or information on nutrition. I didn't know a thing. And looking back, it's so just embarrassing that I would give the worst advice. Like I would have a client who was, severely overweight. And I was like, well, maybe you're just not, like, maybe you're not eating enough. I don't know, try eating more. Like, it's just crazy to me. And it's like, oh, it's so cringy to think about that. But yeah, I think I just got into it when I realized it goes hand in hand. You can't, I'm sure you could, but it's much more optimal to dial your nutrition in while you're also dialing in, your fitness. So kind of once I realized that, and I started to pay attention to, honestly, like I'm training really hard, but I feel like crap. I just have no energy, no motivation. I was just always so sore. And so that's kind of when I looked into what am I feeding myself Chick-fil-A for breakfast, skipping lunch, dinner's probably a pizza, I don't know, whatever. And then I'll have drinks at night. And then once I kind of realized, okay, let me not skip meals. Let me focus on having some protein. Whoa, I feel really good. I'm starting to look better. This is a thing. That's cool. So.
That's really cool.
I think you brought up an interesting point that like, even as you started to realize maybe you're not doing the right thing, and as you were training people, in their exercise, like it's not necessarily intuitive what changes to make in your nutrition, because there's so much nonsense out there, and so many fads, and it's like, where do I even go?
And I think that's a super common place to start, is like people start out with like, I'm doing this work so I can eat whatever I want.
Exactly.
Yeah, not putting the two and two together of like, I'm putting all this work in, I should be fueling my body with the right stuff, not like I can eat whatever I want kind of attitude.
Or even the mindset of like, or this is just a lack of education, because I didn't know that either. I just assumed if I was eating healthy things, it really wouldn't matter how much of it I was eating. I'm sure there were plenty of times I was way overeating or way under eating, but I was like, well, I'm eating healthy, so that's really all that matters. I don't,
Yeah,
that's
really cool.
That's common.
Yep.
So I think you started as you got more and more interested in nutrition, you went and got educated in that, and then started helping the people you were training with their nutrition, right?
Yeah.
Talk about the course a little bit. You did the precision nutrition course, is that correct?
Yep. I liked it a lot. It was super simple, and it was mind-blowing to me, because somehow I've managed to go this whole 5 or 6 years training people in person. I didn't realize I didn't even know the basics. So it was great. And then I started to, because around the time when I was getting that certification, and I'll probably talk about this more later, I was pretty overweight. I had been through just a rough time. And I'll talk about that more later, but and I started to apply that to myself. And that's kind of when I probably had the most confidence, realizing, okay, well, I'm doing pretty good coaching myself. Let me, I think I could help others. And I love that.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's the key, learning for yourself and then learning how to apply it to others.
Yeah.
So time frame wise, where are we at this point in your life? How long ago was this where are we? And then we can move forward and get closer to the digital barbell time frame.
Oh, you mean like, where was I?
Yeah. How long ago was this? And
okay.
What else was going on in your life? And let's start getting into like the steps that led you to where you are now.
Yeah. So for those that didn't know, I think I talked about this in a recent like IGTV, so check it out. But I had moved to Georgia this was about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit less than. And it was a hard time in a million ways. I ended up being super depressed for a long period of time. Just having no good support system, a tough environment, and that led to, of course, probably in that 3 years, I trained like 20% of the time. My nutrition was non-existent. I drank very heavily. And it was a hard time. And I remember one of the podcasts that you had talked about, even you, Jonathan, and I had mentioned it to you, that I thought it was very cool that you kind of had the courage to even just say that. Because I'd recognized I was also in a time where I would just cry all the time. And I remember very vividly looking at other people who seemed like super happy. And I was like, just, whoa, that's so cool for them, but that's not me. That's never going to happen for me. And so I just kind of had accepted that for some time. And I don't really know what made me, kind of jump out of that, but I did I gained upwards of like 40 pounds. And while I was doing that, I was working at a gym. So that was probably the hardest part of going in and putting on a happy face and wearing big clothes so no one could tell that I was gaining weight, because I was so embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
What brought you to Georgia?
I'd moved for a relationship, and then I knew like I'd wanted to just move out. I was young, so I was like, sure.
Yeah.
you just move away for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was an awesome gym that I worked at. But it was just, it was just a time in my life where I had to address what was going on mentally before I could do anything else.
Mhm.
Yeah. Was there a time where you I think this happens with a lot of our clients, and especially our most successful clients, like they reach a point in their life where they're like, enough is enough. Like, I got to start turning things around. Was there a moment like that as you were going through, the feelings of depression and the lack of attention to your own health?
Yeah, I think there was. It wasn't like a aha moment. It was kind of like a slow process. But that led me to move back to Maryland to be closer to my family. So having a great support system again. But I was still, kind of in a place where I was a lot better. But I knew it was going to take some more time before I could really hone in on, of course, I wanted to get back to training and nutrition and, start losing some weight. But I had to also do the hard part and realize, as much as I would love to do that, I need to figure out what the heck is going on, with my mental health before I can even pursue that. So I went all in on that as much as I could, just doing things that made me happy, things that filled my cup. And then I was, slowly in a better place where I was like, okay, cool. I'm pumped. I'm going to crush it. And hate to toot my own horn, I've been crushing it.
That's great.
I've noticed that in your content, you talk a lot about, caring for yourself and making sure you're in a place where you can take care of yourself. Otherwise, you can't take care of anybody else. And you also just mentioned that it wasn't like a switch flipped and you went from where you were to where you are now. You said it was a gradual process. And I think that's important for people to hear, because so much of our expectations and everything we do in life comes with this instant gratification mindset. And you might have gotten discouraged and never gotten to where you are now if you didn't know that it was going to be a process, and it wasn't going to be like you went from depressed to fulfilled all in one moment.
Right. And I'm glad I went through that, because man, that's probably the biggest thing that has made me the coach that I am today. Cause I'm thinking of so many people in particular where that's our main topic. It's like, you need to, like the post you had put up today, you need to trust the process. It's not, Amazon Prime, 2 days, here it is, you just crushed it. It's slow, and that's not always the most exciting and sexy thing, but that's where it's at. And
yeah, like enjoying the process, not enjoying the end, not just looking at that end goal.
Exactly. Because ideally, there really isn't necessarily an end goal. We're shooting to do this forever, really.
Forever, yeah.
We talk a lot about just when we look back on our own story, that we never could have laid out the way things have happened in our life. It's not until we are past it and we look back where we're like, okay, I see why things worked out the way that they have. And I think that's a part of your story too. You probably, when you were working at the gym originally in Maryland, never would have imagined you would have moved to Georgia, had a bad experience overall there, and now be back in Maryland working for an online training company. You couldn't have planned that.
No. Well, what's wild is when I moved back to Maryland, I didn't really have a plan. I was like, well, I guess I'll just be an in-person, coach again. And I really didn't want to, not because I didn't like it, but it's pretty draining and it's exhausting. And when you're not in a good place yourself, that just takes a huge toll on you. So what I did was the gym I had worked at before, it was technically in Pennsylvania, but he had owned another one in Maryland. And so he offered me a full-time training position. And there was just something in my gut that was saying, this just isn't right. It's not for you. But I said yes anyway. And then literally the next day I was like, oh no, I can't. I just knew that wasn't going to help me at all. Which was very scary, because then I was back to, okay, don't have a plan again. But I can't explain it any better than I just knew something was coming, and something exactly what I needed, which was gonna appear. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all. So I'm very thankful for it.
Wow.
So in case you talked about this in that Instagram TV post that you mentioned, but in case somebody didn't watch that, what were the kind of series of events that led to you finding and reaching out to us?
Yeah. It's kind of cool. So Well, I first had just found you guys through Alex Macklin, who's awesome. He's been on a podcast here recently, which was really good. I think he had just shared something and I was like, that's pretty solid content. And I started following you guys, listening to the podcast. And it's kind of rare to, especially in the fitness industry, to just realize, okay, cool. Everything they're about, I'm about too. There's always, they always have some sort of wacky thing going on, but that wasn't the case. And so I enjoyed listening to the podcast. And there was one in particular that you did with Cody McBroom, where you had mentioned you're looking for help. And I was like, oh, that could be pretty dang cool. And I think at the time you were mentioning admin help.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, that could be a great way to get my foot in the door. I was having a rough day, just because I didn't have any plan. So it was one of those days. But I remember very vividly, I was chopping peppers. I listened to it, I put the knife down. I was like, So I went and grabbed my laptop. I'm not exaggerating. This is so I opened my laptop up and I stared at it for a while. I was like, okay, let me do it. Wow. And then something in my brain just told me no, you look at you. You're in no one would take you seriously. You're just in such a funky place. You've gained all this weight, even though at the time I thought it was only for an admin role, I was still just filled with self-doubt. So I closed my laptop, went back to cutting peppers, pressed play on the podcast. I was still listening to it. And then I put the knife down harder. I walked to my laptop, opened it up harder, started typing and
oh my goodness. It's making me tear up. I don't know why. It's so sweet.
Okay, that might make me tear up too. It's a really intense moment. Actually.
So cool.
Yeah. No, now I am tearing up.
Sweet. Sorry.
And so I messaged you guys, and lo and behold, you had hired Christina as your admin. But then it's wild that it worked out. You were also looking for a nutrition coach.
Yeah.
Oh man, that worked out a little too well.
Wow.
And then
that is so cool. That's a really cool story. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, we emailed back and forth a couple times.
Did a few FaceTime calls.
Yeah, and yeah, it's been a great process.
I remember it was we were just moving here, we were 2 days into living here, and I was like, okay, hey, let me unpack this box.
Right.
I was so distracted kind of because I was it was unpacking mania, but that's so cool. It's such a cool story.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely pushed us out of our comfort zone because we've known for a long time that we needed to hire help, but you want to be ready to do it both mentally and physically, kind of like when you want to make an improvement in your own health, you need to have the space to be able to make it happen. And
the time to dedicate to it. That's one of the things, when I would hire people at the gym, it was I needed the help, but it was sometimes it was so much more work because I had to get everything prepared for them. And, you couldn't just wing it. But I always found out that I ended up doing better by being prepared, to help somebody else be prepared too. So it was just a good match.
And we lucked out that you're very smart and you take initiative and you're very personable
with the clients.
So that's what happened up until the point that you started working for us, and you kind of shadowed me, nutrition coaching clients for a while to kind of see our flow. You already kind of knew our methodology because we talked so much about it in the podcast.
Too. Jonathan's been coaching me this whole time, which is great because every coach needs a coach, and I think it's. If you have a coach and they don't have a coach, you might want to read.
Oh yeah, on your own personal nutrition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And I think it was only a month in that we realized how good of a fit you were to the whole digital barbell team. And it was we kind of fast tracked you into okay, how do you feel about doing the training side too? Because I think originally we were going to it was just going to be the nutrition side. And after we saw how well you fit, it was all right, let's bring her all in.
Yeah. So now you have your own nutrition clients, you're coaching people through some of our 12-week programs. What's you never coached anybody online before, just in person? What are some of the differences and what has it been like trying to build a relationship in a virtual world?
Yeah.
I love this question because as I was thinking about it, I actually 100% feel like this online platform, like the community that we have at Digital Barbell, is more personable. I'm fostering better relationships, better connections than in person.
Wow.
And the reason I think that is because, so when I first started training, I would have one-on-one clients, but it was, in 30-minute time increments. So like, got in, okay, we gotta hurry, let's do warm up. Okay. And then see ya, on to the next one. So there was no time for anything other than here's your weight, here's your reps, maybe some small talk, and then that was it. Whereas now, I'm thinking of so many people in particular where we're chatting, hey, how's your weekend? There are all sorts of like, just cool stuff. Like Jen, I told her, I was like, if you don't show me your new puppy in our check-in video, I'll never talk to you again. So having relationships with everyone, and we chat throughout the week, and it's a completely different ball game, of course, but I love it so much more from both
That's
the
great.
client and the coach perspective.
Yeah, you mentioned check-in videos. So that's one of the things that we do with our nutrition clients, unless there's a reason we can't. What was the experience like of pointing the camera at yourself? And
bad news. It was bad news bears for a while. I would probably do, even it was like a practice one. You were like, just, I'm not going to send this, but just practice it. I would take like at least 20 takes. And I would just be like, oh no, it's embarrassing. This is awkward. What do I do with my hands? And I would like keep restarting. But now, just my confidence in general, and that's totally translated into my coaching and my check-in videos. I'm so much more confident. And now I'm pretty sure in every single video at some point, I'm like, brain fart. Okay, back on. I'm like, I'm not going to restart it. You just know, just ignore me when I'm being weird.
Do you remember the advice I gave you on that topic when you told me you were restarting them when you messed up?
No, I don't remember. What did you tell me?
I told you it doesn't matter if you mess up. People will appreciate the fact that you're not perfect. Just do your best to be organized with your thoughts and let it rip.
Yeah. And I think clients, again, from also that I am a client myself, really, I just appreciate it so much. There's such a good, personal aspect. We spend, before I film a check-in video, I have like at least one page full of notes. You know what I mean? It's not like, let me just say something, hey, nice job, very cool. It's okay, let's really like dive into everything that happened last week. And it's great.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know where we came up with that idea.
You just kind of started doing it one day.
It just happened.
Very
so
cool.
You've been rolling with coaching now for a few months with us. We're recording this in June of 2021. Thinking about like the growth that you're already experiencing and the way that clients are coming in, like where do you see this kind of leading you in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. My goal is just to continue to, well, for one, just continue to give all my effort and time into the clients I have now, and ideally continue to just keep growing that list and having a really, really good team. And I'm also looking forward to bumping up my Instagram content because I'm an influencer now. So shout out, if you have any diet pills or waist slimmers you want me to review for money, I will do that.
Use code Haley Digital Barbell at checkout.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to just going all in on this. It's been, like I said, it worked out. I truly couldn't have thought of a better way for this to work out. I love it so dang much. I love you guys. It's an awesome community. If you guys aren't part of the Digital Barbell community, we have a lot of fun. It's so cool. Everyone is just super supportive, and it's great.
Yeah, it's cool that you've gotten to hook up with a lot of Blakely and I's clients too, and build relationships.
Like through Instagram and stuff. It's really cool. Yeah.
Also, I'm going to give Ray a shout out because he made me cry the other day with the nicest message. And it's great.
Ray's
I
the
know,
man.
we have such nice clients. It's amazing.
I know.
We're very lucky.
You look like you're tearing up again over there.
Probably. It's emotional progress.
Well, yeah. Well, after we finish this big cry, no, this is great. We feel very blessed to have you on the team, and I feel 100% confident that the clients that are lucky enough to work with you are doing something that is just going to continue to get them results. And, just, you're killing it. You're killing it.
We're going to start getting requests. Be like, I'll join if I can work with Haley.
Yeah. We're okay with that. All right. Awesome. Anything else you want to let people know? Tell them how they can follow you. That's the official way to sign off.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm going to sound really cool. Well, I have one platform, but you can follow me there. It's Haley Digital Barbell, Haley.
There it is.
On Instagram, right?
Yep. All right, cool. Thanks for taking time to do this.
Yes. Oh no, it froze. Right?
Hold on. Is that us?
I don't know. Oh,
there
okay,
we go.
It froze for a second.
Okay. It's our internet connection.
All right, man, right at the sign out.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for taking time to do this, Haley. I know everybody's going to identify with some part of your story.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so continuing on the theme of talking to our two employees that aren't Blakely and I, we've got Christina, but we've got Christina live and in the flesh today because we're lucky enough to be living right next door to Christina. So welcome to the office, Christina. How was the commute?
Thank you so much. I will say as a bonus on my commute, I did not pass any snakes. I know you've heard about the snake issue inside Jonathan and Blakely's home, and we also have a snake issue on between the properties, but I passed no snakes.
Yes, all of our upcoming guests will be pleased to hear that for sure. Well, we're going to talk about a few different things about you, but let's start with just kind of talking about how we got to meet you and your husband. Your husband's name is Benson.
Yes.
And we met online.
Yeah. So how many years ago? Like 15 to 20 years ago, somewhere in that range.
I'm thinking more like 20. Yeah.
It would have been in 2000 and late 2002.
Wow.
I think.
Maybe. My husband is an engineer, but he is always looking for some sort of side job. And at the time, he was really interested in flipping real estate. I mean, he took a class and everything. And he joined an online community, which back then was kind of a big deal. That's very different than saying you met someone online today.
Right.
And he met this really nice guy named Jonathan. And Benson wanted to go look at a house that he was considering flipping. And Jonathan very kindly said, well, because Jonathan was already doing this, he said, if you want, I can just meet you there and help you go through what it would take to flip this house. And it ends up, it was the house straight off of Money Pit. It was this mansion.
Oh my goodness.
There was
So
a
true.
complete disarray. So we did not buy that house, but it began a really sweet friendship between the four of us.
Yeah, I remember Jonathan coming home and saying, Benson might be the nicest guy I've ever met.
Oh, and he is. He's the nicest guy I've ever met. I married him first, though.
That's so funny. Man, that was so long ago, but that's awesome. It's funny that here we are today.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and then, I mean, it could have ended right there, but you guys invited us to join your Bible study group that met at your apartment.
Yeah,
And we
we
did that.
invited you guys for dinner one night, and it was the four of us.
Because that's how you guys are. You're like, come share a meal with us. Let's talk. Let's get to know you.
That's where we feel the most comfortable, is having people in our home at our table. That's our favorite thing to do. And so we had you guys over to the apartment. And I remember afterwards, Benson asked me, like, what do you think if I invited them to church? I mean, not getting my opinion on it, but just telling me he was going to. And he did that. And you guys came to church with us and then ended up joining the Bible study that met in our home.
Yeah.
Which turned into a group of about 10 of us who became very dear friends.
And we're still all close today.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, and
amazing. Yeah.
For people that kind of followed our journey to living in Idaho, the house that we lived in there was actually owned by another couple that was part of this
that
group
same
from
group, yeah.
almost 20 years ago. When we make friends, we stay together. We like to keep our clients and we like to keep our friends.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys ended up buying a house near us, and you wanted to remodel it.
We did. So we had big ambitions. Benson and I were, I mean, I think we were 23 and 24 at the time. I had, and still have zero construction experience. Benson is a handy guy, but we've never remodeled anything. But we bought a house in the same neighborhood as you guys for $100,000. No money down.
No money down.
No, we got 2 loans, an 80-20, no money down, $100,000.
Those were the days.
And we had to our name $7,000. And we were like, we can remodel a house. We don't need savings. We can just put $6,500 into this house and we'll be good. We'll do all the work ourselves. And Jonathan and Blakely are much wiser than we are. And the first day that we owned this house, we show up, hammers, and we're just ready to start knocking stuff down. And Jonathan and Blakely, who did this for a living, showed up as well. And they spent months with us working for free, telling us and actually swinging hammers and helping us remodel this house. I stepped back from the remodeling after about minute 25.
Oh my goodness.
And my job was to make sandwiches for everybody.
There's been very few times where I've seen Benson really upset or frustrated, but one of those times was trying to put the toilet in at that house. I thought he was going to pull out what Harry had on his head or throw a hammer through a wall or something. But eventually I left, but he eventually got it installed.
Wow.
Another thing I remember about you guys living in that house was getting phone calls when Benson was either at work or out of town, and the situation was always revolving around something your cat had brought to you.
Maybe like a live animal loose in the house.
So one part of that remodel was to install a cat door, because if any of your followers are on Instagram, I put up funny posts. I love cats. And we installed a cat door because I wanted my cats to be able to come and go as they pleased, which they did, but they would also bring friends home. And if any of you are not experienced with cats don't just kill prey. They injure it and play with it. And so multiple times my cat would about 25% kill a bird and bring it in the house and let it free. And there was at least once, I think more than once, I called Blakely, you got to help me get this live bird out of my house.
Y'all come over. I got a situation.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
So while Benson and I, we're really good at welcoming people into our life, we do not just welcome people into the easy parts of our life. We want you to help us remodel a home. We want you to kill vermin in our house.
Oh man. So I remember during this time also, like, there was a gym near our house. There was a 24-hour fitness. And I don't remember, I think it was you guys who were already going there, or you got it started and you
she invited me, to the what were those classes?
Yeah, what did you guys do over there?
Kickboxing?
We took a kickboxing class that was a lot of fun.
That was.
If there was a way I could still take that class today, I would.
Yeah.
And then there were 2 step classes we took. The first step class was straight something you'd see on television where they're like, repeater, and you put one, you put your left leg on the box and then your right leg kicks and you do that 17 times and then you do the other side. And it was great fun. Mm-hmm. And so we were so good at that class, we decided, let's take this advanced step class.
I remember
also
that.
at 24-hour fitness?
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously,
this other one was way too easy
we're
for us.
killing it in this other step class. So we go into the advanced step class, and I wanted to stand on the second row because I wanted to be able to see the instructor. Mm-hmm.
But not be on the first row.
These were those kind of rooms where it was just like mirrors. So it was.
Yes.
You were on display, whether you were in the front or the back.
And this class ended up being, I think, the precursor to when people are going to be backup dancers for the Super Bowl performer. Like, you're going to be a fly girl. If you can't, that'll be a reference to only people. People are about 50 and understand.
Shout out to our over 40 crowd.
Yeah. This was so advanced and choreographed. And we left that class and Blakely said, that's the most humiliating thing I've ever done in my life. And I said, we need to try it one more time though.
Did we?
I know I tried it one more time and it was just as humiliating. Could not keep up. I remember this sweet woman was in front of us and you could tell this was her class. Like that is all she did was these advanced step classes. And she was just like dancing, hair flying. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she turned around at one point and said, just don't think about it. And I said, I'm just doing my own thing.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Now I really know why I just stayed on the elliptical machine.
You would go and just walk the elliptical.
I'm pretty sure I went to a couple of those classes with you guys. I don't remember if it involved a step. I think there were some of those body bars or something.
Maybe, yeah.
And it was so hard. Like they're getting you to do about 10,000 reps with this 5-pound weight and you're just dead.
That class gave me anxiety.
Yeah, it's like a lot of pressure and
it really was.
They're like shouting out what you're supposed to do.
And there was like, go get your equipment. And everybody would run to this closet. Yeah.
And I remember the lady, we were joking about this the other day, the lady's cue when you did the bench press was right over the nipple line.
Like, oh, good.
Benson and I still say that if we're working out, right over the nipple line.
It's clear. I mean, it's clear. It might not be politically
So
correct.
I think you guys should start programming that, like in some of your
The body
cues.
bar,
Yeah.
Points of performance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right over the nipple line.
Oh, goodness.
So after you finished that class, your fitness journey did not end there. Eventually, you and Benson both got into CrossFit, and you actually ended up taking your level 1 certification. How did all that kind of come to be?
Well, Benson has traveled a lot for work over the years, and he was on a project where he was having to drive really far out to a job site every day, but we just got to a point in our marriage where we needed to spend more time together and we couldn't figure out how. And he and I had never really overlapped on our workouts because in the past, he had been into triathlons and that wasn't my thing. I was doing the advanced step classes. And so we were like, what's an area of our life where we can spend time together and join it together?
Yeah.
Maybe we can start working out. And there was a CrossFit gym walking distance from our house. And he said, what if we tried that out? And so we went, and it was a lot of fun. We did it for 5 years, and it was a marriage booster.
I had forgotten
that's
that part of the
amazing.
story, that the main reason was so you guys would have something to do together. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then do you mind if I share like why I had to stop doing
Not at all.
CrossFit? We did it for 5 years. I got my level 1 cert because I thought, I'm enjoying this so much. I've always had gigs. So like I work for the Fletchers. I've been a dog walker. I've been a writer. I just do all kinds of gigs. And I thought, well, that could be a gig I could have one day is teaching these classes. Well, I did not connect these dots at the time, but the month I started doing CrossFit, I started having panic attacks. I didn't connect that at the time. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, I started doing this thing because my panic attacks didn't happen at the gym. Panic attack would be, I'm in the grocery store and I'm not thinking about anything, but all of a sudden I'm having a panic attack. Or we're watching a suspenseful movie. And during the suspenseful part, it doesn't just feel suspenseful to me. I actually have a panic attack. Well, I went to the doctor and I explained, I exercise, I pray, I eat right. Like, I don't understand. And he gave me medicine that I could take during the panic attacks. We do CrossFit for 5 years. Panic attacks are just part of my life. We pray that they'll go away. It just doesn't happen. And after 5 years of doing CrossFit, I injured my elbow. I don't know exactly what happened, but it
was like a tendonitis, right?
Yes. And it was so intense that I could not use that arm at all. And so I eventually just stopped going to classes, even though the instructors at that gym were so kind and they would have modified everything for me. I just didn't want that attention. I didn't want to be the one that needed, like in a class of 12, I'm the one that has to do the weird thing, especially when you just can't use an entire arm.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And so I had to stop going to CrossFit. And a few months later, I was opening our kitchen junk drawer, which was also where I happened to keep my anxiety meds. And I noticed that the drawer was filled with those meds because I would still get the
Like a refill.
or the refill. And all of a sudden I thought, wait a minute, I haven't had a panic attack since I stopped going to CrossFit. And it did stop. Now, I've since dealt with some other mental health issues that once I get to know you podcast folks, we can talk about it at a later time. But for years and years and years, I never had another panic attack. So there was just something about, I know some people, that group atmosphere where you're cheering each other on is so motivating. It always made me a little bit tense, and it was scary for me. I didn't want 12 people cheering me on. And another thing that was really hard for me is I never wanted my workout to affect another person's workout. And just by design, some CrossFit workouts are like that. Like you have a partner and you do 50 push-ups while this other person just holds a weight.
Yeah.
And so I felt like this, it's not just me in this anymore. This person has to hold this weight while I do this thing.
Yeah.
And it didn't click with me at the time, but then later that night I would be laying in bed and my chest is seizing up and I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah.
So it was, looking back, it was grace from the Lord that he injured my elbow. And I had to step going
away.
there.
Yeah.
And we ended up at that time buying all gym equipment for our garage so that we could work out at home. And then it ended up perfect because now we live here in Wimberley and we get to use all that gym equipment. So the Lord really used a trying time in my life to bring about blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your workouts look different now than they used to. I mean, you like you said, you guys have built out one of your horse stalls into a gym.
Yes.
You've got a trampoline, you've got rings, you've got a little deck to do stuff on.
Yeah.
And you you don't have lifters, so you do your deadlifts on a slope. Like
Yeah, I've got all
type.
types of tips here. I'm the assistant here. Like I do the behind the scenes stuff. They did not hire me to be the workout programmer, anything to do with that.
But we do get to work out together every once in a while,
Yeah.
which has been awesome. All right, so all that's great. I mean, I think a lot of people will be able to identify that. I know with that. I know when Blakely owned the gym, like there was different people who had different preferences for different levels of stimulation and like you said, the pressure thing. So it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk more about now how you came to work for us and how we came to live next to each other, because I think that's kind of a cool story. So as Blakely and I were ending the time that we knew we had in Boise, we were trying to decide where we were going to live. And we had spent a lot of time at the house that you're living in now, helping take care of that when you guys were living in India. So we knew we liked this part of the country. And your next door neighbor was a realtor, and she was kind of exploring some options for us. And then she basically reached out to Blakely, and I was like, we're going to move out of the house we're living in next to your friends, Benson and Christina. What if you guys rented it? And a bunch of other stuff happened, and it looked like it wasn't going to happen. And then it looked like it was going to happen. And it did happen.
It happened.
But I think it's really cool what was going on behind the scenes in your life during that time that we didn't even know about until we moved here. Like you had been praying for something like that to happen, right?
Yeah, so when Benson and I moved here 1 year ago, maybe it was after about a month of living here, I started praying for friends. And one way the Lord provided that is the people that live on the other side of me and Benson have 4 little boys, and we've just become like family with them. And so that was such a sweet gift to have new friends in our life. And then we knew that you guys, your time in Boise was coming to an end, and you'd be making some decisions about where to live. And we really hoped it would be Wimberley, but didn't even know if you would be coming back to Texas. And we found out that our neighbors who owned the house that lived in the house that Jonathan and Blakely live in now were going to be moving. And as soon as we found that out, I started praying. Oh, I might cry, guys. I'm a crier.
That's okay. Haley cried in her part too.
Okay. I just started praying over this property. When I would go on a walk, I would pray for whoever was going to live in this home. And I prayed that God would bless those people mightily, and that the Lord would allow me and Benson to love them well, and that he would bless our relationship.
Aww.
And
You know, make me cry.
Then we found out it was you guys. Because Chloe mentioned, you know, do you think your friends would want to live here? And we jumped on that and tried to make that happen. And so when you guys pulled in that day with your, you know, all your stuff, it was just such a tangible answer to the Lord's Prayer.
It's such a cool like chain of events of like, you know, we lived close together, you know, 18 years ago or so. Then we all went our separate ways, and now like we're next door again. Like, you know, it's just really cool how things like that happen you would never expect.
Yeah.
And it kind of came to my mind a long time ago, and I reached out to Benson about it back then, that there was a lot of things that we wanted to do with our business that just weren't getting done because we just didn't have time.
Yeah.
And you came to mind as like somebody who has that skill set to do a lot of those things. And I reached out to him at that time, and maybe he asked you, and he was like, it's not a good time right now. Like, she's not in a good place to do that, but you know, maybe in the future. And we didn't really bring it up again. And then
it was right as we were moving that you said you were ready to take it on.
I don't even know if we reached back out to you or if Benson maybe just messaged me, or you did, and you're like, I think I'm ready to do some stuff.
I sent you a Marco Polo.
Okay.
Yeah, to fill in some of that. So I'm fine if your listeners know this. I've had a really rough past 2 years, and I'm coming out of the hardest season of my life. There was just a year and a half of really hard mental health issues. And so the reason Jonathan asked Benson if I would be willing to work for them last year wasn't because we're old school and think like, is your wife allowed to work for me? It was because the Fletchers knew I was in such a low state. They didn't want me to feel any pressure. And so it was a kindness on their part to reach out to Benson and say, do you think Christina would be interested in this? And at the time I was not healthy enough at all. And so just said no, and that was it. And then thankfully the Lord began to heal me and heal me and heal me. And I got to a point, I guess right before y'all came out, I thought, I am ready for something, and I don't know what that is. And so I just started praying that the Lord would provide something. And then I remembered that you guys had reached out to Benson, and I thought, well, maybe that's still available. So I sent you guys a Marco Polo. That's a really cool app, by the way. I feel like I need to give a plug. I'm not sponsored by Marco Polo, but I love that app.
This segment's sponsored by
I sent you guys a video on Marco Polo and just asked if that was still available. And
we talked in the part that just people just listened to with Haley about how when she heard us mention on another podcast that we were looking for help, we were looking for admin help. That was before we knew that you were interested.
Yeah, that was when we were still living in Idaho. We mentioned that on a podcast. That's the podcast Haley mentioned.
So she thought she was reaching out for that
role, and then in between her hearing that podcast and it airing, and you messaging us, we had already been like, yes, we need you. Let's go.
So it was perfect timing.
It was perfect timing. And then when she reached out, you know, we told that story earlier of her experience level. We're like, well, we also need a coach. You know, so. It just really did work out perfect. Yeah.
Worked out great that Haley's the coach.
Let's renew that certification.
So we're going to talk about some of her other experiences of things, like the reason that we wanted her for the role we did.
The reason we wanted to take advantage of her skills was because she's got a lot of skills. So tell us about some of the things you've done before. I mean, you're a published author, for goodness sake.
Yes.
But that's not all.
I've done all sorts of stuff. The first 5 years out of college, I was a reading tutor at an elementary school. And so I taught all the kids who had trouble reading how to sound words out and about the silent E and things like that. After that job, I started working as an assistant at a mortgage company. And my boss, well, I should give some background. I've always had a passion for writing. That's what I studied in school. I was working at the mortgage company, and my boss would always talk about, I should start a mortgage blog. And I was like, yeah, I bet everybody's going to read that. That's going to be so boring. But then I just had an idea one night. I thought, what if I wrote about mortgages in a way that anybody could understand? And I'll write it from the perspective of I'm at the bottom rung of the corporate ladder here. Like I literally buy the toilet paper for the office. But if I can understand the ins and outs of these mortgages, then I can explain it in a way you can. And so I went to my boss and I pitched my idea, and he loved it. And I asked for $50 so I could buy the domain justtheassistant.com.
Do you still have that?
Yeah, I do. So I started this mortgage blog, but it turned into a lot more. This might make it sound like it's more interesting than it really was, but I viewed it as like The Office, but in a blog setting, because I wrote about all the characters of people that worked in our office and like as much of the office drama that I was allowed to write about. And my bosses were so cool. They gave me free reign to just totally make fun of them in a light-hearted way. Like I never was cruel or anything. Or if I was, they made me take it down. But it started getting a following, and other companies in Houston started reaching out to me about writing for them. And then a magazine reached out to me, and I got a spot writing for a local magazine in Houston.
Houston Press?
That was as Houston Press did an article about the book, but Houston Woman Magazine was the magazine I started writing for. And eventually it got to where I was able to make writing my career, and I was no longer the assistant. It actually worked out that there was I guess it was like, I don't remember what one of the years the mortgage industry kind of tanked, but there was a point where my bosses were like, we need you to just write the blog, but not be our assistant anymore. And I was devastated at the time, but it ended up to be such a blessing because I ended up with a writing career.
Wow.
I remember you having a writing room back in Benning. Didn't you have like a little writing area in the back bedroom back there or something?
Yeah, officed from home. That was that little 2-bedroom, $100,000 house.
I remember that.
It was a guest room / Benson's closet / my office.
That's your office.
So how did it come to be that you wrote a book?
Okay, so actually that came about through CrossFit. Our gym was making a promotional video, and they asked anybody like, will you come work out for this video? And I'm totally vain. I like put on my makeup, my best workout clothes, and I came up and I was like trying to look like really good while I was working out. And like between takes while they were filming better looking people, that's a comment on me, not the comment on the person who approached me, because it makes it sound like I'm
They're probably not listening.
No. This older couple, older than me, they were probably, I guess they were in their mid-50s at the time, approached me, and the wife, she said, Christina, Ed has something to ask you. And Ed said, you're a writer, right? Or you're a journalist. I said, well, I'm a writer. And he said, okay, well, have you ever written a book for someone? And I said, no. And immediately he said, because I have a story. And immediately I was thinking, well, every man thinks he has a story, and it's going to be like, back in my day. Like, I really judged him and shouldn't have. And I thought, well, yeah, I mean, maybe it's something I'm interested in. And he said, because through DNA testing, I found out that the man who I thought was my father was not my father. And there's a lot to this story. There's murder. And all of a sudden, my ears just perked up. And he started listing all the components of this story. He said, but I still have the mystery on my hand of what happened. I have figured out who my dad is, but I don't know why. And I need someone not only to write a book for me, but to help me solve this mystery.
Wow.
And long story short, I accepted the job. And I spent a year driving with Ed out to Orange, Texas, interviewing. When I say anyone with a pulse, I mean all the people that were privy to this information we needed were about to die.
Wow.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
literally people on our interview list, there were times he'd be like, okay, so-and-so just died. We can't interview them, because these were people in their 90s that we were trying to get a hold of. And we solved the mystery.
Wow.
And I wrote the book about it.
What's the name of the book for anybody who wants to check it out? We'll put the link in the show notes.
Oh, thanks. It's called The Saint, the Sinner, and Eddie.
Available
so
on
cool.
Amazon.
Do you get royalties off that?
I do.
Nice.
So cool.
It's another one of your gigs.
Buy 100 copies.
All right. So you're not writing a book for us yet, but you do a lot of things for us that's been really valuable so far. How are you liking like the things that you're doing for us?
I really love it. I mean, it's not important for me to be the decision maker or the person that makes big things happen in anything I do. I really do enjoy the role of assisting people. That just fits my personality better. I don't want to be the one in charge. And so I love hand drawing cards that we send out to clients and emailing people and just checking in on how are you doing? Is there anything that we can do to serve you better? I like that role. And so I really enjoy it. And then just the very practical stuff that I absolutely love of just editing blogs that we put on the website. Editing is really fun for me. I love just going through the red pen and grammatically checking things off. I enjoy that. So
it's been awesome for us.
It really has. So one of the things I'm sure a lot of our clients will notice is like if there's like, oh, here's how to do a dumbbell row, here's how to not, here's how to, and I'll send them a link to something on a blog. Those are all things that Christina has put up on the blog since she's been working for us. It's like things that we were putting just on Instagram that we really, made a big mistake in just putting them on Instagram, and they were just like gone. And so she's grabbing them, putting them on our blog so we can reuse all this information. And so that has been just like invaluable.
Yeah. I think probably your two main responsibilities for us just in broad categories are making sure our clients get an extra personal touch if we don't have time to do it, or just one extra layer of communication, and then just trying to keep the quality of everything we do and put out as high as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds kind of silly like to care about grammatical errors on a blog, but we do care about it, and we want to have it be as good as we can. So it's been great to have you do that for us. It's like a peace of mind knowing that a professional has looked something over that's going to be published.
I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it.
Well, we feel really blessed to be living next to you guys and have the opportunity to work with you. And I know the feedback we already get from our clients that get to interact with you are it's just really cool. They reach out to us and they're like, I got the nicest email
or the nicest
Christina.
Card. We get that all the time. I got a sticker in the mail. I love it.
Yeah. So we feel really lucky to have you. Just want you to know that.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you listening to this episode. And this is actually going to be like our 52nd episode, which is 1 year. So I think it's a good one to have you and Haley on and just celebrate the growth of the company and everything we're trying to do. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will check you out on the next episode.